The Houston Texans aren't locks to win the AFC South this year. That may sound like a hot take, but I wouldn't sleep on the Jaguars this year. Before Trevor Lawrence got injured the second half of last season, Jacksonville was 8-1. They were number one when it came to the playoff race for the AFC 1 seed. And then once he got injured, that's when their season started to go left. But with him coming back fully healthy, Jacksonville slightly revamping his supporting cast, you get a better defensive coordinator. Jacksonville most definitely could end up winning the AFC South. And I remember when around this same time last offseason, people thought that Jacksonville was going to be a lock to win this division. And we saw the Houston Texans win it. And the AFC South is probably as competitive as it's ever been in the last couple of years. Because not only do you have the Jaguars who could potentially win this division, but the Tennessee Titans are a huge wild card team. And I don't mean that by them being a playoff wild card team. I mean, they're a wild card team in terms of they could be really good or they could be really terrible, depending on how well Will Levis plays. And I was listening to Ryan Carthon do a recent podcast episode with Bussin' with the Boys. Really love his personality. He understands what he's doing down there. Him and Bill Callahan are on the same page when it comes to their vision for what they want the Tennessee Titans to become. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Tennessee go from worst to first in this division because they have the talent to do so. You got DeAndre Hopkins already. You now pair him up with Tyler Boyd and Calvin Ridley. And then you got Chiggy Okonkwo at tight end, who's really underrated. Your running back room is pretty solid. Your offensive line still is a huge question mark. And it's not more so your whole entire offensive line. Really, your left side is cemented. You got J.C. Latham at left tackle. You got Peter Skoronski at left guard. But the whole entire right side is a mystery. But you hired Bill Callahan, who is one of the greatest offensive line coaches in the history of football. So if there's anybody who can fix Tennessee's offensive line woes, it's him. The defense could be pretty good also. They got a lot of talent in the secondary. They got a lot of depth there. The pass rush kind of concerns me a little bit, and their depth and talent at linebacker too. But overall, if Tennessee ends up playing at their best level this year, and Will Levis ends up truly being the answer for them as their long-term quarterback, they definitely could win this division. Are they as talented as the Houston Texans? I believe they are. You just think about the addition of Joe Mixon and Stefon Diggs and just thinks that makes the Houston Texans an automatic lock to win this division. But I don't think the gap between the Texans and the Titans, if everything goes right for Will Levis, is too far off neither. The Indianapolis Colts, they could be a really interesting team to watch with the healthy Anthony Richardson. They went 9-8 with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. Shane Steichen is one of the best offensive minds in the game. We saw how good the Philadelphia Eagles were when he was their offensive coordinator. Jalen Hurts had an MVP caliber season, led them to the Super Bowl, and then last year he dropped off in a major way once Shane Steichen left for Indianapolis. So that just shows you how good of an offensive mind Shane Steichen is. As long as Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, Indianapolis could be a pretty good team. And this could be the best division in the NFL when it comes to quarterback play. There are a lot of quarterbacks in this division that have the upside to be top 10. CJ Stroud, we already know that he's the chosen one. He's been anointed already as a top 6, top 7 quarterback in the league. But if Will Levis ends up playing up to his potential, he could also be a top 10 quarterback. Trevor Lawrence, we've already seen when he's at his best, he's a top 10 quarterback as long as he can maintain a consistent level of play. And Anthony Richardson, there's a lot of hype around him potentially winning MVP. If he plays up to an MVP level, hell, he could be as good as CJ Stroud. And him and CJ Stroud were having two of the best rookie seasons until AR went down with that shoulder injury. So there's a lot of great quarterback play in this division. There are a lot of teams that have the upside to be really good, just as good as the Houston Texans. I wouldn't sleep on any other team in this division. You know, I still would pick Houston to win the AFC South, but I wouldn't call them a lock. You know, these were the same people who tried to tell you that Jacksonville was a lock. We're too quick to anoint teams after one good season. Yes, we know that CJ Stroud isn't going anywhere at quarterback. I'm not saying that the Houston Texans aren't locks because he's going to have a sophomore slump. I'm saying that they're not a guarantee to win the South just because there are other teams in this division that have the capability to be just as good as what Houston could be this season. Hell, Tennessee could make a deep playoff run. They win this division. That tells you that Will Levis played really well. And hell, with how good their offensive line could be under Bill Callahan, I could see them being a scary team. If you see them in the playoffs with all the talent they got at wide out, a good offensive line, they could come out of nowhere and shock some people. Same thing with Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson is 255 now, running 4.43. Do you not know how scary that shit is in the open field? There are not a lot of defensive backs that are going to want to tackle Anthony Richardson one-on-one. There are too many DBs I've seen make some business decisions already when it came to having the capability to get Anthony Richardson down, but they just said, you know what, no thanks, I'd rather just try to ankle tackle him. Trevor Lawrence has already won a playoff game. He's already won this division once. And before he went down, I'm going to say it one last time, Jacksonville had the 1 seed in the AFC. So it definitely is possible for them to take this division from Houston. I truthfully believe that the AFC South this year comes down to Houston and Jacksonville. I probably still would take Houston, but I'm still not counting out the Jaguars. I see them as a 10, 11-win team this year. The Texans have a higher ceiling than Jacksonville, but the Texans' offensive line still is a giant concern. I don't think they really did too much in free agency to improve that, and that could be their Achilles heel. So I'm not going to just anoint the Texans as a sure thing to win this division.